Hello friends, and welcome to the very highly requested Dungeons & Dragons Notion tour. A lot of you wanted to see how I set up Notion for my own reference, as well as a reference for both of my DMs, so I hope that this helps you if you're looking to organize your own information with Notion. Notion is something you really have to play around with to learn, I've found, and I've been using it for quite a few years now, so I figured out a lot of things along the way, and I'm excited to share them with you. This is my main D&D character spread that links from my overall Notion dashboard, where I can see the 4 main campaign characters I've played. Lola actually does not have much of a setup because I started really using Notion after her campaign was nearly over, but I have setups for Gray, Marcella, and Bellamy that I'll be going over today to show you the differences between characters in different stages of their campaigns. We'll start with Bellamy's that shows what it looks like 6 sessions into a campaign, Marcella's shows around 20 sessions into a campaign, and Gray's setup shows how a Notion page looks at the end of a 90-session campaign. I'm going to start with Bellamy because she's the newest, and then I can show how the page grows the further into the campaign you go. This is the main page of Bellamy Brightleap's Notion setup. She is my Azamar Oath of the Ancients paladin, and I'm really loving her whole aesthetic. I'm very excited about it. So firstly, I like to set all of my Notion pages to serif font, small text, and full width, and then I can adjust things as needed so they look best on my screen size. You can see the art of her in the upper left-hand corner was an early art that I did of her, and then her main stats are underneath that, along with a link to her D&D Beyond character sheet. I'll go over the navigation in a moment, but first, scrolling down, we have this biography section. This is something that my partner does on her page for her cleric, and it provides a little bit of extra information that I can use to get a concrete sense of her overall vibe for me and for my DM. This gives a little bit of extra basics such as her full name, her nicknames and pronouns, to her physical appearance, including scars and birthmarks. And then her overall vibes here. All these photos are pulled from her Pinterest board as well. This is really good for giving the DM an idea of what vibe you want to go with your character, and to help kind of create a visual structure for it as well. Scrolling back up to the top here, on this right-hand side, I also have a link to a page called The Menagerie. This is a page that my DM made so we could organize our NPCs, and I have it just linked here in the corner so I can easily access it. The first photo on it is, of course, a bridge, because we do have a bridge character in the campaign, as you do. So first is Bellamy's backstory. So this is a bit more static of a look because I need to keep a lot of this blurred out. My fellow players watch my videos, and there are spoilers in here. But this is where I list all of the main backstory elements that I have for Bellamy, where my DM can easily access and comment on everything here, just so he's up to date and has my information easily accessible for creating all of those plot twists I'm so excited about. The next page here is just called Oath of the Ancients, and this is Bellamy's build. This page tracks Bellamy's current build and upcoming things I want to keep in mind for level ups, such as the fighting style I currently use, my feats and spells I want to take, things in that nature. This makes sure that my DM knows the direction I'm taking the build in, as well as keeping things easily accessible for me when it comes to level ups. I don't actually track my character sheet in Notion. I know a lot of people do. I use D&D Beyond, and then I keep a physical journal and character sheet there. Bellamy's video hasn't been posted when this Notion tour goes up, but when her journal tour is posted, I'll include it in the info card right here. This is how I like to format my playlist page in Notion. I bold the name of the song title and artist and color code it to match a character in Bellamy's backstory or in the campaign as a whole, before adding a quote text block to put the lyrics in. Here at the bottom, I have a button that I can just click to automate a new row, which is really helpful and makes it a lot easier to do on the fly. I can add to this as the campaign goes on, and it's really fun to see how the songs and lyrics I'm pulling change for Bellamy as her adventure continues. Bellamy's default color is yellow, and other colors are for other characters, such as blue, which is for our party's sorcerer Nico, who Bellamy watches over as his bodyguard. He's getting a lot of songs lately. Up next is my lexicon. So this page also has a lot of classified information. My DM and I played a game of the role-playing game Dialect before the campaign to come up with a language used by Bellamy's Paladin Grove. So I have all of the words we created here so I can keep them in the forefront of my mind before games, and so he can reference it if he needs to. This is a page unique to Bellamy's setup, but it's a really fun and nice way to store this information. Bellamy also keeps a timeline. This is a thing that I have on all of my journal setups, and it's so helpful. It's my most referenced page for sure. This helps me keep track of what day it is in game, as well as what happened each day as the campaign goes. This is a really helpful tool for keeping track of dates and lore, and my DM also often uses it to check in and make sure that we players have the same dates and information as he thinks we have. This page also has an embedded spreadsheet that my DM made, which is our calendar. So it's showing what date currently it is and how many days away a bunch of events are, such as a music festival, and Shrek, the ogre bard, of course, is headlining at the music festival. And lastly, my newest page, and one I'm super excited about, is Bellamy's Companions page. I have each of the other party members' art here along with their names and subclasses, and then in each of these toggles I'm keeping important information that I'm learning as a player about the lore, and also what Bellamy's thoughts on each character is as the campaign continues. And that's the main navigation for Bellamy. I'm excited to work on how her page grows as she continues in her adventures, but right now she's still in her very early stages of the campaign. So up next we'll go to Marcella. So this is my next setup, which is for my Satyr Sorcerer Marcella 4 branch. So Marcella's main page setup is really similar to Bellamy's, with a little bit more content because she's a little farther in her adventure. I have some early art pieces that I did of Marcella. She has the same biography section as Bellamy does, but also has an extra section at the bottom where my partner who plays our party's Firbolg Cleric and I did some more character questions. So I have the answers to those down here. This was a very fun little character exercise. And of course, Marcella's Pinterest vibes, same as Bellamy's. Marcella has a lot of the same pages that Bellamy has, but they're a little bit filled in further. Her backstory still has some classified information in it, but her build page has a little bit more detail. I just have her spells known listed here, spells that she wants to take in the future, as well as some feats. I also have her homebrew subclass embedded here. The last time you saw Marcella, she was a homebrewed Seeker Warlock, but I have since reclassed into a custom subclass built by my DM called Intuitive Soul, and so I have that embedded here so I can check on things that Marcella will learn, and it also helps that my DM has it on hand easily as well. And yes, that is Lightning Bolt and Haste as class spells at 3rd level spells. It's a good class. Marcella's playlist is also pretty long, and it's color-coded the same way that Bellamy's is, with green as her default color and other colors for other characters. She's got purple for her unicorn patron Moondrop, and orange for her fathers Sorrel and Windsor. And a few other ones I haven't revealed yet. This is Marcella's timeline. You can see here that it's a little bit more filled in and a few more days here as well. And lastly, I've got Marcella's Companions page. It's set up the same way with each of the other party members, their subclasses, and then notes and lore, as well as Marcella's thoughts on each of them. We have a pretty big party, so it's really nice to be able to keep track of what they're all up to. And that's it for Marcella's setup. Lastly, let's take a look at my Kalishtar Divination Wizard, Grey Wilding. So this Notion setup is post-campaign, and you all know Grey pretty well, so I'll keep things pretty brief. You can see down here that she has the same biography section as the others. Her scar section is pretty big. I had her get a new scar for every encounter that she went unconscious during, and those added up really quickly. She has her same Pinterest area here. And then scrolling up, her navigation is a lot bigger than the others because I had a lot of pages that I added specifically for Grey. And having this setup was especially helpful when I first started in this campaign because I didn't know my DM before we started playing together, and this gave him a really good idea of the kind of character I was bringing to the table. Grey's playlist looks a little bit different from the others, mostly because I actually ran out of colors to color code with, so I had to start putting the character's name in instead of the artist's name and doing a rainbow color order. I also added some art in here, but it's very fun to see how many songs were added. As you can see as I'm scrolling here, it is a very long playlist. I have a lot of songs in it. And I do listen to it all the time, even though it's a very chaotic listen. Down here at the very bottom, I have some songs for the finale. Of course, Gotta End with Taylor Swift. And at the very bottom, I have a section here called Midnight Sun. This is a playlist that my friend who played our cleric and I made, since Gray and Claire had a romance throughout the campaign, and we had a separate playlist for their ship songs. Gray had a separate page from her build notes for her spellbook, and I would highly recommend this if you are playing a wizard. It was really helpful for me to remember which spells I had because I learned a lot, and also it was helpful for my DM to know which spells I already had and which spells I was hoping to get when he would put scrolls or books into the world for me to learn from. I found a lot of them. I think my favorite was a scroll of Ray of Sickness that was written incorrectly and forced a wild magic surge with each casting, made for some very fun moments. Gray's timeline is also incredibly long. This campaign was a year and a half of real time, but a very short time span in-game. There were only 55 in-character days, so there were a lot of things that happened each in-game day. Keeping track of the days when we had multiple encounters and big moments was super important for maintaining a timeline and knowing what was happening. And this is just split into volumes to go along with the 3 notebooks that I kept for Gray. Gray's backstory page is a little bit more bare bones than my others. I came up with Gray very quickly, and I purposely wanted to go in with a lot of information left up to the DM. However, it gives an idea of how a backstory can be as simple or complex as you need, and it's still nice to have it all in one place for the DM to access and then be able to build off of it, which is why Notion was so helpful for this campaign specifically. I also tracked a couple of class-specific things for Gray, such as the script that I created for the Magnificent Mansion. I read this out on the session where Gray first cast it. Of course, Wilding's welcoming whereabouts in-game. And I also tracked my portents. I managed to keep track of those in my handwritten notes and then put them into Notion afterwards, so I could really track what I used the portents on and how that looked throughout the campaign. And I had a gallery of art that was done of Gray throughout the campaign, so I could have all of it in one place. And that is pretty much it. Thank you for watching my Notion setup. I hope it helped inspire you for some ways that you can use Notion for your own characters and create a little wiki for you and your DM, or for other friends who like to stay up to date on your lore. My partner has access to Gray's and Bellamy's databases, even though she's not in those campaigns. If you have any questions or want to share with others in the community how you use Notion for D&D, let me know in the comments so we can all share tips and tricks together. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at ShapingShan, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. If you want to hear more about Bellamy, her journal tour is in progress. Here are a couple sneak peeks, and I'll be sharing it in the next few weeks with you. Lastly, keep it magical, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye, friends!